I couldn't write. Partway through my junior spring semester, I stared at the blank page on my computer screen, utterly incapable of writing my junior essay, a paper intended to demonstrate all the skills I had learned through my study of history and literature over the past 3 years. But that page was white, to me, a symbol of my failure as a student. A few days earlier, my mother had been diagnosed with an eye disease that would rapidly blind her. As I tried to write my paper, I thought about my mom at home, dealing with her worsening vision and caring for my brother Matt, a wheelchair user with cerebral palsy, while my father was working to pay for our family's ballooning healthcare costs. I tried to push these thoughts aside so I could just write my paper, but I couldn't. At that moment, I couldn't care less about my paper on dodo birds and Victorian literature, a topic I had been obsessed with since I began college after meeting Andrew Barry. I wondered what good I was doing writing this paper that I only half-heartedly cared about and assumed no one would ever read, when instead I could be helping my family. The thought entered my mind that I could take a term off. As many of you here no doubt know, the decision to take a term off was not an easy one. I worried what my professors and friends would think of me. Wouldn't I be a screw-up for having to take extra time to graduate? Most of all, I was worried about my final term. Wouldn't all my friends have graduated by then? I was scared of being alone, and even worse, more behind than everyone else. Thankfully, my family and my resident dean, Lisa Bose, alleviated these concerns, and I decided to take a leave of absence, the best decision I ever made in college. I think everyone graduating today can agree that they learned a lot in their time off. Some learned how to run a campaign by working on the presidential election. Others learned more about their world through travel. I learned how to make an amazing salad dressing. Okay, I learned much more as well. At home with my family and dog, a group I affectionately call a walking and wheeling menagerie of misfortune, I've learned how to care for others. With salad, with moral support, with funny stories, with doing laundry, with a million very minor things that added up to making my family know that they're loved and nurtured. I knew some of these things before my term off, but I like to think I became more of a pro focusing solely on them. More aware than ever of how critical helping others and reaching out for help is, a lesson that would change the way I experienced college upon my return. In my time off, I was able to live out the best advice a Harvard professor ever gave me. My freshman year, I was explaining to English professor Elizabeth Lyman my love for Chekhov's The Three Sisters. In the play, a well-educated family is stuck in a backwater town in rural Russia where no one reads or analyzes or apparently thinks. The sisters call out to return to their hometown of Moscow, where they claim everyone is intellectually scintillating. I told Professor Lyman that I felt that Harvard was my Moscow. I was finally surrounded by people who cared about books and ideas, and was afraid of what would happen when I had to leave Harvard. Would I be as miserable as those pining three sisters, never able to return to their beloved Moscow? Professor Lyman smiled and said, well, you know, you make your own Moscows. Following Professor Lyman's advice, I surrounded myself with family and friends in my time off, who supported me with their enormous emotional intelligence and common sense, two traits that often go unnoticed here at Harvard. This experience has really helped me prepare to leave this wonderful campus. Though it was significantly easier to make groups of friends that challenged and supported us intellectually and emotionally here, now that we know that joy, we can strive to recreate it anywhere we go outside of Cambridge, surrounding ourselves with similar friends, those exciting, wonderful people out in the world, with Harvard degrees, without Harvard degrees, without college degrees, and dare I say it, with Yale degrees, just waiting to be found. I was nervous when my term off and subsequent summer flew by. Would my family be okay without me? Would my mother's improved eyesight and care hold in my absence? Would I be able to put aside these worries and be able to focus on being a student again? These concerns were briefly cast aside when I logged onto the course catalog that summer. I consumed the course guide with the same gluttony I'd experienced reading it for the first time as a freshman. The same energy carried over to the classroom, where I was thrilled to be back and engaged in my work. I could write again. Even with family difficulties lingering, I could slug out a paper as I hadn't been able to in the terms past. From my experience at home, I was reminded of the importance of relying on others. I opened up to my friends more about the difficulties my family was still having, and accepted their support in a way I was embarrassed to prior to my term off. Having my blockmates and friends here to cheer me up and feed me when things were bad enabled me to make it through my last few terms at college, even when my mother's condition worsened and I had to support my family from a distance with many phone calls and a few trips home. Without them, the stress would have made doing my schoolwork impossible. I can only hope that I was able to support them a fraction of the amount they supported me. The culmination of all this came with the writing of my senior thesis, which grew out of that paper on the dodo bird that so frustrated me earlier on. Due to my family situation, as well as my tendency to procrastinate, it was a frenetic effort to assemble years of research on the extinct bird into a coherent thesis. With the support of my advisor, Sarah Rose Cole, and the unwavering editorial support of my friends, I somehow turned out a senior thesis. Thanks to the incredible relationships I've made at Harvard, which formed such a strong network of support and strength for me, I went from being unable to write a single page to producing a 95-page treatise on an extinct bird. While I'm proud of my thesis, I'm most proud of the friendships I made in my 4.5 years at Harvard that came to the fore as I finished my project. Before coming to Harvard, my mother wrote her traditional letter to the freshman dean. In it, she noted that I take on the role of caretaker too easily, both in and out of our home, and that she hoped I would get a break from taking care of people with roommates who could take care of themselves. The housing office must have taken this to heart because I was placed with a 23-year-old who had spent 3 years as a missionary in Poland, a natural-born politician from rural Minnesota, and a 24-year-old former Israeli soldier. I did not have to take care of them. My mother's other wish to the freshman dean that I get the belated gifts of spontaneity, adventure, and silliness that had been denied to me because of my responsibilities at home came true as well. Justin Keenan and I hopped the fence at Mount Auburn Cemetery at midnight and got frighteningly off course in the thick mist. Jennifer Wu and I got questioned by a police officer for lingering in front of Mayor Menino's house in Hyde Park. From nobly failing to write a mystery novel with Linda Liu, to getting lost on the way to the best Colombian restaurant in East Boston with Laura Jaramillo, Rob Fitzsimmons, and Doris Lay, to going for a run with Amy Lee and Eber Melendrakis while eating a newly purchased bag of boiled shrimp, to aimlessly wandering the North End with Cheever Parkin after a bad breakup, to just ignoring my schoolwork and sitting in the grass discussing poetry with Liza Plum, to getting in the middle of a fight using ground cinnamon with Kristen Garland and Eve Brigman. My friends have really made my experience here. It will be a challenge to make my own Moscow and form a new group of people as wonderful as you all were. I cannot thank you enough. During my semester at home, my mother kept correcting me every time I called my final semester an extra term or a super senior term. She insisted on calling it a victory lap. Then, I thought she was being goofy. Only now, having almost finished the term, do I realize how right she is. For me, as for everyone graduating now, having the courage to take a term off, or to graduate early, to verge from the normal plan and do what is right for you, not for everyone else, is truly a victory. So congratulations on finishing your victory laps.